It is already April 12th of 2025, and the Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler drama continues to worsen, not just related to Snow White, but also due to the fact that they both have personal problems with each other for obvious reasons. But beyond that, we already know that the Walt Disney Company really tried to tame that entire situation, and that worked to no avail. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about the whole Rachel and Gal situation is that it is only getting worse over time. We know that Disney is trying to create this facade, time and time again, that they are on good terms, in order to improve the Disney image, in order to improve basically Bob Iger's image as running CEO. And what's interesting here again is that we already know that there's a lot of other issues going on with this movie. The fact that they poured so many funds into this thing, you know, we're talking about a $300 million loss at minimum when you factor in the marketing, when you factor in the reshoots. They lost a ton of money on this thing so far, and still to this day it only sits at $170 some million at the box office worldwide. Now, what's interesting here has a lot more to do with Rachel Zegler's recent behavior, yet again, toward Gal Gadot in the midst of the Snow White drama. Now, we already know that movie theater chains and Disney are beginning to pull this movie out of theaters at a rapid rate, not just limited to the fact that this is just a bad movie, but also to the fact that Minecraft, alright, the Minecraft movie by WB, literally outperformed this movie on a massive scale when it came to the box office. However, what's interesting here has a lot more to do with Rachel Zegler's overall stance against Gal Gadot in the last-ditch effort to really kind of make it appear that these two are on good terms. Now, with the Walt Disney Company still dealing with the constant pushback and backlash related to Snow White and Rachel Zegler, one significant development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler going off on Gal Gadot in the midst of the Snow White fiasco in the worst way possible. Now, it turns out that especially after, of course, everything else, a special featurette now was cancelled by the Disney Company that was going to be filmed for Disney Plus that was going to be called The Making of Snow White. Both Rachel and Gal were on the set of filming this featurette at last minute. However, multiple moments of outrage took place on the set to the point that Disney producers had to take Rachel off the set from Gal Gadot after she engaged in very vocal attacks toward Gal. Now, both Rachel and Gal were indeed filming side-by-side interviews with each other to talk about behind-the-scenes facts and secrets about Snow White 25. However, there were moments where Gal was losing her train of thought and not remembering some of her talking points after being overwhelmed by Zegler's intense energy that she was giving off in the interviews. This led to a moment in which Rachel Zegler shouted at Gal Gadot on the set of the Snow White featurette that was going to have never-before-seen footage playing in the background while they were sitting in chairs. Now, Rachel did make multiple remarks toward Gal in between takes that she is very incompetent and is irresponsible and unprofessional for showing up late, when in reality, Gal Gadot was on time and well on schedule. The Disney executives and producers reportedly couldn't even use the footage that was shot since they both appeared angry toward each other while doing the spur-of-the-moment interview that they both finally agreed to do. Now again, let me just say one thing about this entire scenario taking place. Now, one thing about Gal Gadot is that whether you like her or not as an actress, you gotta admit that she was the most professional out of the whole Snow White drama, right? Out of the entire intense moments that Disney had to deal with Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot handled it perfectly. She really served as the better person and everything. She really stayed above all the drama for the longest time. In fact, we haven't really heard much from Gal Gadot directly talking about the Rachel Zegler, situation or anything to do with the Snow White box office performance. Meanwhile, you have Rachel Zegler getting very defensive over that and really creating a lot of problems that really aren't all that necessary. The fact that she keeps going on the damage control train is another sign that she can't deal with criticism well. A very big sign of narcissism, and she even joked before, in months past, that she's a narcissist, and there are many times where jokes aren't just jokes, right? I think that she really realizes that she really is very self-absorbed, But what's interesting about this, yet again, is the fact that, however, in between takes for this featurette, Zegler demanded Gal to never bring up Israel again, both in her career and on camera, when being interviewed by the media. Gal refused to Zegler's demands, and this led to other overwhelming issues for the Disney producers and executives. Rachel was said to be a very big problem for Gal, to the point that it was making her lose her concentration. Zegler also demanded Disney producers to change some lines in the script of the Snow White featurette, and Gal got very defensive and angered about Zegler's audacity to demand such a thing. This is where yet again Rachel threw a fit at Gal and claimed that Gal was trying to actually steal the show from Zegler. Disney invested a whopping, get this, $1.5 million to $2 million in this Snow White featurette alone that was going to serve as the final stage of the press tour for the film, and it was going to be released on Disney+, and they decided to cancel the entire thing after Rachel kept attacking Gal on the set with nasty words. Now, Gal informed Disney producers that she never wants to shot footage to ever surface and push Disney to also lock up some deleted scenes of the actual movie that she performed with Zegler. Disney shockingly agreed to Gal's demands, and this ticked off Zegler in the process, creating an even wider grudge. The Gal and Rachel fiasco is worse than initially thought, essentially, as it turns out. And again, I mean, this is really what I brought up many times earlier, is that we know that Rachel is a very overly demanding person, very difficult to work with. We know that Mark Webb's had some issues with her behind the scenes of Snow White. That's exactly why they had 3 rounds of reshoots. It wasn't just limited to Zegler, though. There were some creative differences that were actually happening between Disney, the creators of the film, and Rachel herself actually got involved in those creative differences, even though she's just an actress, right? And we've seen this more often than not, that there's a lot of actresses out there that believe that they can get involved in the writing process, right, in the directing style. And they really need to stay in their lane and just act, do their lines, and that's it. When you look at the directors, the writers, and the producers, and everyone else, they're the ones that create the story. You have the actors and actresses that perform the characters, and that's how it should be. You know, far too often we're seeing now a lot of actors and actresses getting involved in, or at least demanding or forcing themselves into the creative aspects, right? And Rachel was doing exactly just that with Snow White. So the fact that this entire featurette fell apart, it was canceled by Disney, they just threw it in the garbage, they wasted more money on the press tour, it goes to show you how much wasted funds Disney actually spent on this film, and it's exactly why they lost so much money for Snow White. It's also exactly why they lost so much, potential that they could have set up with this movie if they'd done things correctly. If they didn't fall into the DEI nonsense, if they followed the source material, you would have definitely had something that could have really done well at the box office. There's no doubt about that. That's all it really takes. It's very much common sense, right? No DEI, no forced, politics into an actual story or anything to do with activism or anything like that. If you just follow the source material and stay away from all the other nonsense, you could very well have a successful story if written well. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.